I'm Dan Drake. This is Front Up on Geno TV Channel 99. Our guest today is RobRanney. Rob is a principal of Denby Real Estate, and he is also the newly minted representative of the County of Nantucket on the Steamship Authority. And but before we get into that role and talk a little bit about real estate, I'd like to ask you about your father, Flint Ranney, who very sadly passed away a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Was quite a figure in this community and gave a lot to this community. And I wondered if there was anything you'd just like to say about him. I don't want to put you on the spot, but
well, I would say that a lot of what he did wasn't as flashy or showy as people seem to have. He had this way of doing things that you didn't really know how much he was actually doing. And a lot of that has come to light now since he's passed. People have come up to me, to family members, who have said, you know, he did this for me or he did that for me, and I had no idea. And it's really amazing. He was just a spectacular, wonderful person, a great father, a great role model, a mentor.
But a role model for his family, for his friends, but also for the community.
Absolutely.
I think, in terms of what he gave, the list of his activities was quite amazing.
Yeah.
When you got into it all, and he will really be missed.
And it's sort of ironic because when we moved here as a family in 1977, his main goal was to retire, and one
doesn't retire on
no,
Nantucket.
one doesn't, and he actually became more involved in everything than he possibly ever could have imagined, I believe. And for someone who retired, he did quite a few things. So.
He was on two terms as the town's representative, or the county's representative to the Steamship.
That's correct.
You were quoted as saying your mission, as you see it, is to more or less keep things on a
smooth sailing. We call it smooth
sailing with a steady helm.
That's right. His approach to the board and to representing Nantucket was a very diplomatic one. He firmly believed that you have to get along with all the ports. Everybody, we're all in this together. We have to work together. And Nantucket's interests are important, but they're not the only interest that the steamship has. So he was
really the approach that was taken by I won't mention any names, but taken by the prior.
That's right. And a lot of people don't remember that. But before Flint got onto the board, there was talk of splitting the two islands apart, having Nantucket service on its own, because the Vineyard felt like they were paying for us a lot of the way, and there was a lot of contention. It was very heated, and it got very serious.
And nasty.
And the state was going to become involved and ruin everything, and Flint came in and somehow smoothed that all over, and now we have smooth sailing, which we want to keep going.
Have you been to a meeting yet?
I went to a meeting in December, not in an official capacity, but just to sort of meet people and represent my father, and everyone there has just been wonderful.
What is your sense of is there anything big on the horizon for the Steamship Authority?
Not at the moment. Not at the moment. We like to have no news is good news. There are things that certainly need to be tweaked as we go along. There's some customer service things that crop up. Parking in Hyannis is an issue for island residents, and other things that. I've had a lot of people come up to me and say, well, you should fix this, or wouldn't it be easy if you just did this or this? And it's not easy. There are a lot of things that seem easy on paper, but you can't just go in and blow it apart. It doesn't work that way. So we have to sort of tweak things as we go, and try to make it as the best possible thing we can have.
One of the criticisms of the Steamship Authority has been that, and not a criticism of service or anything, but that its labor costs are disproportionately high.
That's true. That's partly a union issue also. The unions are very strong, and it's difficult to negotiate with them. So some of that is true. And of course, the Nantucket route itself is it doesn't necessarily pay for itself because the distances, the fuel costs, it doesn't work. So we could really never be on our own. So it's very important that we remain friendly with everybody so that we still have our service.
Plus, if you split it apart, you duplicate a lot of the infrastructure.
That's true.
Have to
That's
be
true.
there to
That's true.
support the effort.
That's true.
Which doesn't seem to make any sense on its face.
Well, there are a lot of things that don't seem to make sense with the steamship, but in many cases, it's as good as it's going to get. But we're still tweaking things, and we'll make whatever we can better as we go forward.
Are there any big capital projects that you're aware of that are in the
not that I can talk about publicly. There's going to be possibly some rearranging of the Hyannis terminal. The food concession in the building is not efficient. It doesn't work right. They want to have maybe an outdoor space during the summertime. The town of Barnstable has to approve that. So I don't know where we're going to go with that. And it's just. Like I said, it's tweaking things. The traffic flow sometimes doesn't work. Just making things smoother and more passenger friendly or consumer friendly.
So when you're finally finished with your role at the Steamship Authority, I assume you like in that sense, that your epitaph to be, it's still smooth sailing.
Absolutely, absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
We want people to have the best possible experience, and often that just doesn't happen because there are things that are out of our control, like weather or other cancellations, and you have people that need to get their car off the island or on the island and can't, and we just do the best we can.
Yeah, well, you have limited capacity too.
Right, and it's not like an airline where, if the boat's full, we can just throw on another boat and use that. Where airlines will often do that; they'll throw in another plane and have that work, but
or not. Less true now than it used to be.
That's true. That's true.
In fact, it's a bit of a struggle for them, I think, when the steamship does cancel because of the.
Yeah, well, we've actually taken, between the steamship and the Highline, we've taken a lot of business from the airlines just because our rates are a little bit lower. And even though it takes an hour, by the time you get to the airport, get on the plane, get off in Hyannis, arrange a rental car or whatever, you've used an hour already.
If I were wearing my airport commissioner hat, I'd say shame on you. But it's true. It's
true.
Absolutely true. And then the airport's volume from Hyannis has gone down by more than a third since 2005.
Yeah.
So it's a significant issue for the airport.
And you can have Wi-Fi on the boat, whereas you can't sit on the airplane and use your computer. So.
That's true. Anyway, let's talk about something else.
Okay.
What's going on in the real estate market here?
The real estate market is, it's, I guess I would say, climbing out of the hole, or climbing up from the bottom. 2012 was a much better year than 2011 was. Numbers were way up, but I think the averages and the mean were sort of up. 10%, 15%, something like that, which is, it seems like a lot, but there were a lot of high-end sales that sort of skew that, which is always the case here anyway.
Right.
But I think we'll probably, barring any national economic problems or fiscal cliffs or things of that nature, we'll probably continue to, go up gradually.
Yeah. There hasn't been a lot of talk in the last couple of years that I'm aware of about the need for affordable housing. Is that going to start heating up again as these prices go up?
Probably. Yeah, as prices go up, that generally comes right back out to the forefront. It's a very difficult issue here on Nantucket.
Are people here able to get mortgages? Particularly at the low end of the
not
market?
Really. Despite what you hear, I hear that it's still very difficult. Even people with perfect credit still have issues. It's a bank issue. The banks just I guess there's no confidence. I'm not sure why, but they don't want to get involved. We've seen deals that have come right up to the closing table and then fallen apart because the bank has withdrawn their financing for whatever banking issue.
What about you've got? I mean, Cape Cod 5 has now been here for a couple of years, and Hingham has been active here and is now going to have a presence here. Do you think that's going to help them?
It probably will. Cape Cod 5, from what I understand, has been doing very well. They've taken a lot of business from Nantucket Bank, just because they have been more willing to be a part of the real estate market. I think Nantucket Bank sort of got tied up with their ownership by Santander, and it just their whole market share sort of fell apart.
What about the availability of open land, developable land? I mean,
it's getting less and less. We have building permits have been slow, which is understandable given the state of the economy and the lack of confidence. But those numbers are starting to pick up again. I think this past year there were something like 55 or 56 single-family permits, new single-family permits issued, which was similar to 2011.
But way down.
Way down from averages years. During the boom, it was close to 200.
Right.
But that's gradually coming back. Although there's just not a lot of vacant land available to build on. So we probably won't see the 200 new building permits per year ever again.
Which has a lot of implications.
It does.
From the economy standpoint, from transportation standpoint,
That's right.
Everything else.
Yeah, well, a lot of those workers come over on the boats
and the
planes,
material.
And the materials, yeah, right. Absolutely.
So all of this, as there becomes less availability, I think, of buildable land, this will clearly have an impact.
And supply and demand will maybe make prices keep going up, which plays into the affordability or non-affordability issue as well. So we're sort of in a catch-22 all the time.
We were talking before we started the taping about the property out on Neil Point Road that just sold for $13+ million. I think it was on the market originally for $16 million. Obviously, there's a market for
There is a market. We've seen a few. There have been a couple that were in the $18 million range this year, and a $14 million. This one that you mentioned at 13. There is a market. It's a different market than anything else. Most of the time, those people do not have to buy or sell, so they buy and sell when they want. There's no pressure to do it. It's not economically driven, so it's difficult for ordinary people to understand. But there are still some big sales happening.
But it's also interesting that there is a market. There is a willing buyer. Or there's a willing seller, and particularly a willing buyer at those prices.
Well, my father and I used to say that Nantucket was a great place to put your money. So if you were having problems with stocks, or you don't want to be in the stock market, put your money in on a $18 million or $13 million on Nantucket, and over time, it's not going to disappear in value. It may stay the same. It may go up a little bit. It may go down a little bit, but you're going to be right around where you are. It's almost as good as putting it in a bank.
Is that true with commercial real estate on the island as well?
I think so. Commercial real estate is tough, I think, because there is such a small audience for it. In other words, there are only so many liquor stores that you can have. There are only so many, hardware stores that you can have because of the population and just the market. So commercial stuff is a different animal. And it doesn't make sense here the way it does in other places.
So I think you're saying that it's a good place for people. You still believe Nantucket's a good place to put their money in real estate?
Absolutely, yes, absolutely, yes, I do. I more so than in other places, just for a number of factors, supply and demand, and there always seems to be, or at least since I've been alive, people that want to buy property on Nantucket, that like coming to Nantucket, that wouldn't want to go anywhere else. Even the Vineyard, and it's been great for that. And
what do you think caused that? I mean, was it the Nantucket Golf Club? Was it better accessibility with the fast ferries? What?
I think it's a combination of all of that. I think that you speak to a lot of wealthy people who come here, or a lot of famous people who come here, and they feel when they get here that they're sort of anonymous, that they can wander around downtown and not be followed by paparazzi or people coming up to them for autographs. And it's very sort of low key and laid back. And so there's that part of it. There's the certainly the ease of accessibility now, and it's a beautiful place.
It is a beautiful place.
So
we're very fortunate to be here.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, and good luck with your new role with the
Thank you.
Steamship Authority. Keep the seas smooth
Well,
for
we're going
us.
to try. We're going to try.
We wish you well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.